Gulliver's Travels by Jonathan Swift. Chapter 1. Shipwrecked. I'm not an old man writing down my life story, for I expect that many years and many adventures lay ahead of me yet, for I'm only 42 years old. Still, during those years I've had many strange adventures in my travels to far-off lands of the world. Perhaps strange adventures aren't what you'd expect from someone named Dr. Lemuel Gulliver. But being a doctor in London, or any place in England, or any place on land for that matter, just did not satisfy me. Even when I was a medical student, I made certain to take courses in navigation, for travel to distant places in the world always fascinated me. After graduating from medical school at the age of 24, I signed up as a ship's doctor and spent 3.5 years sailing around Europe and throughout the Mediterranean Sea. On my return to England, I married and set up a practice in London. But at the end of 2 years I realized that I could not make a success of medicine on land, and with my wife's approval, I went to sea again. For the next 6 years, I traveled to the East and West Indies as a ship's doctor, earning money to send home to my family and learning many languages during my time ashore in foreign lands. Because I have an excellent memory, I learned these languages very easily, a talent which would prove to be very useful during the voyages I would make afterwards. At the end of those 6 years, I had grown tired of the sea and tried again to practice medicine on land, this time in a coastal village where I could treat sailors. But this practice was no more successful than my earlier one. So, after 3 years on land, I accepted an offer from William Pritchard, captain of the Antelope, to become the ship's doctor on a voyage to the South Seas. We set sail from Bristol, England, on May 4th, 1699. And after peacefully crossing the South Seas we hit a violent storm off the west coast of Australia. Poor food and overwork while braving the storm caused the death of 12 of our crew and weakened the rest. So when the wind drove us onto some rocks and split the ship apart, only 6 seamen, myself included, had enough strength to get a lifeboat down into the sea and row clear of the ship and the rocks. Even though we were all exhausted, we kept rowing until we couldn't lift our arms any longer. After that, we lay back and let the waves carry us wherever they wished. A strong blast of wind from the north suddenly overturned our little boat and scattered my 5 companions. I never again laid eyes on them or on those I had last seen on the Antelope. I can only assume that they were all lost at sea. As for me, I began to swim in whichever direction the wind and the waves were pushing me. I don't know how many hours I spent struggling against the waves, but just when I felt my last drop of strength leaving me and water was beginning to fill my lungs, my feet suddenly touched bottom. I took in several mouthfuls of air and looked up to heaven. From the color of the sky, I guessed it was about 8 o'clock in the evening. The storm had decreased, and there was enough light left to make out land about a mile away. I spent the next 2 hours dragging myself towards the shore.